Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the K-Roos brothers giving you the around the grounds in combat sports. We are currently live here in New York. We're in Central Park. We've got the pickleball court behind us, the buildings behind us. Nick, big week of boxing ahead of us.
Well, firstly, shout out to City Pickle. Great location.
Beautiful.
Usually there's an ice skating rink here, but now it's got pickleball. I still don't know what pickleball is.
I don't play it. I'm more of a paddle guy. It's big in Lebanon.
But big week of boxing. I think this is probably the biggest boxing card I've ever been to in my life. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Rolly Romero. Like, they're all big-name superstars that I know.
And also, it's in the heart of Times Square. Turkey Al Sheikh spending the big bucks. This is the first time you're ever going to see a boxing ring in the middle of Times Square. I don't even know what they're going to do with the seats. I don't know how they're making this happen, but it's history-making.
I don't know if there is going to be any seats. I think it's just strictly like they're just going to have it broadcasted on the big screens and then like select few people will have seating or some sort of... I don't even know how they're going to set up a ring there because it doesn't look like there's a lot of room to set up a ring. I mean, they do the New York ball drop Times Square, but look, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I think they're not doing this to make money. They're just doing this to put on a show, which is why Turkey Al Sheikh is a showman. He's a businessman as well, but not as much of a businessman.
Boxing's running hot right now, and this is coming off the back of a decent fight night in UFC Kansas City. I think it was one of the better fight nights of the year. A lot of finishes, a lot of blood. It was very violent. And then on top of that, we got Ian Garry main eventing his first fight night, winning his first fight night in, look, I would say pretty decent fashion.
He did it in pretty decent
dominant fashion.
Besides the last round. If you looked at rounds 1 to 4, you thought Ian Garry, he looks like a title contender, looks like someone that can be very serious in the welterweight division. Then you watch that last round, and Carlos Pardes was absolutely walking him down, mopping the floor with him. Ian Garry looked like he was running for his life. You're thinking, okay, this guy's not the real deal. This guy is not someone that I want fighting Bilal. This is not someone that I want fighting those top 3 ranked guys. I feel like Sean Brady is someone that kind of came out and said, this guy's a piece of shit. Yeah, he's not really worth much.
Let's get into it. What do you think is next for Ian Garry? He now moved up in the rankings. He's ranked number 6.
6, and then Joaquin Buckley 7.
He went ahead of Joaquin Buckley. What's next for Ian Garry now?
I think what's next for him is someone in the top 5, because I feel like that's the one thing on his resume which he hasn't done. He hasn't beaten a top 5 ranked opponent, and I know some people like Kamaru Usman maybe not wanted to fight him, but he versed Shavkat and fell short. So now he needs to fight someone like Kamaru Usman, like Shavkat again, maybe Sean Brady, and really put himself up there to get a title shot. Leon Edwards is maybe another name you can throw up there, but it needs to be someone in the top 5.
Him and Leon Edwards have a bit of history there. I think that's a perfect match to make that Killcliff Gym rivalry. But in saying that, everyone kind of, I'm not going to say enjoys Ian Garry's fight style. People have been talking shit about it online that he doesn't really engage. I thought he was dominant rounds 1 to 4. He was the one really putting the pressure on Pardes.
He waits for someone to do something, then counters. He's never the aggressor, which I understand it can be frustrating as a fan.
But like you would say, in some instances, he was the aggressor in that fight where he was landing. He said he landed more significant strikes, and he kind of out Pardes. He took away his front foot, and I think he was more pressure on that fight. But in saying that, people kind of have the shits because in the lead up to this, he's talking about a title shot as if he kind of deserves it already. Like, you did lose to Shavkat. I think he goes, yeah, but I made him look human. But that's not winning the fight.
It's actually losing the fight.
He lost the fight.
I think a big aspect that he's missing.
And it's all well and good to be confident, but I think there's getting to a point where he's coming across as arrogant and overconfident. But when he keeps winning on short notice, you can't help but say, he's proven everyone wrong.
Look, he did put up a great performance against Shavkat. He didn't win the fight, but he did very well. Nearly got the finish late as well. Similar to how this Pardes fight went with Ian Garry. The fact that he nearly got beaten late, though, against Pardes, is embarrassing. Not embarrassing, but, like, you're not going for a title shot. Pardes is ranked 13th. Like, it's not like he's a top 5 ranked fighter.
What was Pardes doing that last 30 seconds? I know that both men were tired. Like, Ian took it on short notice, but you get that opportunity. The guy's gasping for air on the floor. He didn't know where he was. You think you would just unload with everything you have and ground and pound.
Well, after watching that, I think me and a lot of other people looked at Carlos Pardes and said, this guy might be the dumbest fighter of all time. Because you had an opportunity to finish the fight. Ian Garry's on the floor, crawling for his life. There's a minute left on the clock. You should be throwing as many punches at his head as you can. Instead, he's just kind of waltzing around him, trying to pick the perfect moment to try and do something. It's like, Carlos, you're losing. Kill him. Do something.
And this is why people are now saying Ian Garry's pretty delusional, because he says he wanted to take this fight, win this fight, which he did. Then, on short notice, he wants to be the backup for JDM versus Bilal, which is for the welterweight title. He says he walks in there, wins that fight, or he faces the winner. faces the winner of that fight. Does he deserve the winner of that fight? And then he's saying after that, he'll gladly give Islam Makhachev the title shot because he thinks he deserves it and it would be an honor to share the octagon with him. But I think he might be getting a little bit ahead of himself. I don't even think he's in line for a title shot next because he lost to Shavkat.
Well, he's speaking it into existence. Being the backup fighter usually kind of means you're next in line. That's generally how things work in the UFC.
And he said he wanted that in the contract to fight Pardes, which
he said,
they
mate,
gave
if
it
you
to
give me short notice on this, I'll be the backup fighter. But his 3-fight plan, he wants to take the winner of Belal versus JDM, but he says Belal's going to win that easy. So it's Ian Garry versus Belal sometime later this year. Then he says he wants to welcome Islam to the division. Again, he thinks he can beat him. I don't think he can, but Ian Garry, very overconfident. Then after he beats Islam, wants the rematch against Shavkat and get his revenge on Shavkat. So, that's a big 3 fights. You're versus Belal, Islam, Shavkat. Heavy wrestling dominant fighters. And you think you're going to best all 3 of them? Really, Ian? I'm all for being overconfident. But this sounds more like a Michael Chandler 3-fight plan when he was facing Oliveira. I'm going to beat Oliveira, then I'm going to beat Islam, then I'm going to beat McGregor. It's delusional. It's not going to happen.
This is what contender Sean Brady had to say about it. And this is quote, "You just beat number 13. You don't deserve anything. He can back up all he wants. It don't mean dick."
It don't mean dick. That's a direct quote.
Direct quote.
Sean Brady, I think, might be onto something there as well because you talk about being a short-notice fighter, which you do have to give respect for because Ian Garry has accepted, I think, Shavkat on short notice. Now he's accepted Pardes on short notice. He's accepted this fight on short notice. He is somewhat of a short-notice guy, but you're doing it against guys that really, they're not that high ranked. That's like Sean Brady. He just beat Leon Edwards, number 1 ranked contender. He's fought Bilal Muhammad in the past. Sean Brady has shown a lot more on his resume to get a title shot than what Ian Garry has. And I feel like that's where Sean Brady, maybe he doesn't even dislike Ian Garry, but he actually has to start talking about it because Ian Garry's owning the media. And the UFC is an entertainment business, so you do have to kind of do that aspect of the business to get a title shot. So Sean Brady is losing there.
Well, someone that was there in Kansas City that wanted to get on the bad side of Ian Garry was Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley and Ian Garry have had a bit of a back and forth before where Ian Garry said, "Why would I face you? You're well below me in the ranking. I want to ascend in this division." So Joaquin Buckley was there, and even some say he could be next in line for a potential title shot.
He's versing Kamaru Usman, who's the top 5, so if he wins that, I would agree with him.
So he wants to stake his claim. He's there in the crowd, and he wants to confront Ian Garry. He's there, wants to make some noise at this press conference. And what happens as he goes to approach, he narrates this hilariously himself. Shout out to Joaquin Buckley, a bit of character in the division. He says that he was blocked off by Ian Garry's wife, Layla Machado Garry, who blocked him off, cut in front of him, used the baby as a shield, gives the baby to Ian Garry, and then also says something to him a little bit later on.
Caresses his arm. Caresses his arm. Says something. Joaquin Buckley has said that she said,
I'll see you a little bit later.
He'll see him a little bit later, but he doesn't want to see her. He wants to see Ian. So there's a bit of confusion, a bit about, I think maybe a miscommunication there between Layla and Joaquin. But Joaquin Buckley and Ian Garry, that was a fight I think that was supposed to happen last year in December. And that is a fight that probably should happen because they're both up-and-coming contenders, both top fighters, top strikers. And Joaquin Buckley, I think, is funny. I think he's a great character and something that the division needs, new blood. And if he does beat Kamaru Usman, I'd say he's definitely more in line than Ian Garry. But I love the back and forth between them. I mean, like Joaquin Buckley saying he doesn't speak Cuckanese. That's funny.
Very funny.
It's very funny. And I feel like Ian Garry, he's kind of owned that kind of. It's not that big of an issue anymore being a cuck. But
look, it was something
that's always going to get brought up.
It was a very funny Instagram post from Joaquin Buckley. Does Ian Garry take this personally? Last time someone was going at his wife, he threatened to sue them. That was Sean Strickland. You know, yes, he's been the butt of a joke on the internet, but now that it's kind of played out, does he even care? And does he have Joaquin Buckley in the rearview mirror? Probably. You know what I mean?
No.
But Joaquin's making a lot of noise. He beats Kamaru Usman. He definitely has a stake to claim that he's the next in line as a contender. And maybe they just put Ian Garry versus Buckley. Winner gets the title shot.
There's just way too many people in that welterweight division. Like Sean Brady wants a title shot.
It's a good problem to have.
Shavkat wants a title shot. Kamaru Usman wants a title shot. Joaquin Buckley, Ian Garry. And then on top of that, Islam's ahead of all of them. If Islam wants to go up, he leapfrogs all of them. So it's like, really, who's going to be next? I want it to be Islam because that makes the most sense and it makes it the most entertaining fight. But he's not going to verse Belal, and I do think Belal does also walk through JDM, so I agree with Ian there.
And then off the back of this, we have to talk about the Fighting Nerds undefeated streak. It's come to an end.
Carlos Pardes, you are the loser.
He's let the team down, and it happens. He's obviously came out and said he's going to learn from this, and he moves on. I don't know who he faces next. I think it's in the best interest of the UFC to pair him up with a striker. The guy's smoking 10 cigarettes a day and he's drinking all the time. Probably not going to have the biggest gas tank, and it showed. He couldn't last with Ian Garry. Couldn't go the 5 rounds.
He couldn't last the 5 rounds because he couldn't pump any cigarettes during the break. During the round breaks, he needed to have a cigarette, reignite his lungs, whatever his lungs are running off. They're not running off water, they're running off cigarettes. So I think that's why he struggled. But something for him to do next. I don't think he lost that much from this fight. Again, took it on short notice, took it against a guy that's a pretty big name in the division now.
Could have won it in the last round.
Could have definitely won it in the last round. So I think, look, he wins 2-3 more fights and he gets straight back up to where he was, and the hype train kind of starts again.
I think you got to pair him up with a striker or someone of the older guard in the welterweight division. So I'm thinking a Wonder Boy Thompson.
Leon Edwards even.
Or an MVP. I think an MVP would make a lot of sense. That would be a great striking battle. Can MVP at his age go toe-to-toe with Carlos Prates, a great striker in his own right? Would be very entertaining to watch. MVP needs a fight. His last fight was up at middleweight. He needs to come back down and become a contender in welterweight where he says he wants to be. So I think that's the next fight to make for him.
And MVP's kind of like been lost in the shuffle as well. I mean, like Wonder Boy, I feel like just
good
waiting for...
Good win against Shara.
Yeah, I'm saying, but he's like, no one's really talking like, oh, he should face this guy, he should face this guy. When he came in, it was like, okay, we want MVP to face as many people as possible because he's getting up there in age as well. But I hope he's not getting lost in the shuffle of the division because he does need to fight soon.
Yeah, well, the UFC made a storm of announcements. It was Dana White who went out and came out and said that it's Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway in his retirement fight in Louisiana. Is this the best way for Dustin Poirier to go out?
Well, look, he wanted a legend. He wanted Justin Gaethje, I think, for their trilogy because they're 1-1. But he didn't get Justin Gaethje because I think Gaethje's kind of holding out for a title shot. And Max Holloway does make sense because he's also someone that's new to the lightweight division, basically. And
legend of the sport as well.
And legend of the sport. But the only problem with this is Dustin Poirier has already beat Max Holloway twice. Once in Max Holloway's debut fight, and then once for the interim lightweight title. So,
and look, Max doesn't go too well in trilogies.
He doesn't go too well at all. So this could be another one where Dustin Poirier gets the better of him. And really, what does Max Holloway gain out of this? Because he loses the BMF, Dustin Poirier retires, and Max Holloway's just left with nothing. He just loses maybe a ranking spot. So it is a tough one, but as a fan, as a pure fan, two guys that are going to strike, going to kill each other, this is going to be a great fight. This is something Dustin Poirier is going to leave it all out there, and Max Holloway in the last 2-3 fights that he's been in has been a pure striker, going there, just standing off, teeing off with whoever's in the middle of the octagon, so it should be very exciting.
Well, listen to this. If Dustin Poirier beats him, he becomes BMF champion.
Retires with it, gets rid of the belt.
That's kind of best case scenario with the BMF. I'm sick of this BMF shit. It's going to headline a UFC card. You know, it kind of still means nothing. Yes, I actually like the idea of a retirement fight being a headliner, but yeah, you add the BMF onto that, it's kind of no stakes for me. Well, so let's get rid of it. Dustin win, and let's retire this thing.
I think regardless, just get rid of it, because realistically, Ilia Topuria is the BMF. He beat Max Holloway. Now, I understand that Max Holloway won at lightweight, but still, whoever beat him is the next title holder. And if it does happen so that Dustin Poirier wins this fight, retire everything. That's it. Dustin Poirier retires, the belt retires, BMF is no more, because the way it started with Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, it kind of had a bit of hype to it. They had The Rock presenting it.
Yeah.
They're not doing that anymore. And these guys aren't really guys that aren't in the title picture. They are in the title picture. This BMF title was for people that are never going to be in the title picture.
I think it was the UFC trying to do like a WWE Intercontinental Champion, just have kind of like a mid-card champion that's someone on the way up, the workhorse, but it hasn't become that at all, and it's very infrequent when it gets defended. Ilia Topuria is really the true BMF champion right now, so I don't know, I want to see it gone. But Dana also made a few other announcements. Like he said, he announced Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Finally, we're getting his return.
UFC Atlanta.
Which could be fun. It's a fight night. I didn't expect Kamaru Usman to be on a fight night, but I mean, here we are. Then he also confirmed that DDP versus Khamzat is going to be on, just not on International Fight Week.
Well, he said it in the post-match press conference of Kansas City, because there was a lot of reports earlier in the week that DDP was injured, DDP versus Khamzat was off, they never really had it signed. He came out and said, no, it's 100% signed, it's 100% going ahead, just not at International Fight Week, which everyone was like, well, shit, because Dana, what are you announcing then for International Fight Week? Because it's literally 2 months away, and they haven't announced the biggest card of the year's biggest main event.
I think it's less than 2 months away, and everyone's just saying, the longer it goes on, the more we're shitting ourselves that it's just going to be a lackluster event. We've confirmed that Ilia Topuria is going to be on there. That's 100%. We don't know who it's going to be against. I think Islam's getting ready. He's in a training camp as well. But nothing's been 100% confirmed. And Dana is purposefully keeping the media waiting, purposely delaying this announcement. I think they're going to announce it at probably the next pay-per-view because, let's be honest, the next two cards are very lackluster in terms of main event talent. You're talking Bilal versus JDM. Let's see how interesting that's going to be in Canada. Then you're talking Merab versus Sugar Sean. We've seen that. They need a massive international fight week. I think they're going to stack it as much as they stack Miami.
Well, because they should. And especially if you consider last year's one where they were supposed to have McGregor on there, then that kind of fell through. They had to have Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska. Kind of disappointing for what you're hyped for with McGregor. Now, again, people were expecting Ilya Islam.
Okay, let me ask
people
you
were
this.
expecting DDP Khamzat. If you're not going to get those big high-level fights,
Yeah.
people are going to be left disappointed.
Let me pose it to you this way. Is International Fight Week going to be the next Sphere? All the hype, but lackluster fights.
No, because the Sphere was more around the spectacle of it more than the actual fights and the fights on the card. Like, it had the highest gate ever. They could have put me versus you there on the main event.
Yeah,
It didn't have to,
you're spending $1,000 on a ticket.
it doesn't
each.
really matter, yeah. So, like, and that was kind of UFC Noche. They have that kind of Mexican kind of theme to it. But with this one, they need fighters on there. They need big names because they've had a lackluster International Fight Week the last year, I would say. So this year they need to go all guns blazing, put the best fights on. I want, like, if you asked me 2 months ago, I was saying you have Ilya Islam, Khamzat DDP, co-main. That's the biggest fight card ever.
Yeah.
They're not doing probably either of those now. So it's like, who are you getting?
Nah, I think you could take to the bank Islam versus Topuria
I
to
think it's going to be. I think it's going to be
the middle of the year.
Topuria versus Charles because Topuria said he's in camp, and Charles has also said that he's in camp. Now, it would make sense for them to verse each other for an interim title or for a vacant title. I don't know. I think they're just waiting to work out those terms.
Yeah, interim would suck. You can't have two active interim champions in the UFC. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense. And speaking of interim champions, I want to congratulate Tom Aspinall. He is now the longest reigning interim heavyweight champion of all time, the longest reigning interim champion in UFC history.
Well, as of today, he has reached the record 535 days as interim heavyweight champion, surpassing the old record of 534 days, which is a big congratulations to Tom Aspinall. I know he's very proud of this.
Yeah.
It's a very big achievement
Huge
for his
achievement.
career. And I know that he's, not rushing to kind of get rid of this interim title either.
Well, I want to take it easy on Jon Jones because people have been putting shit on Jon saying he's ducking Tom. Tom came out actually and said he's been ill. He's been the sickest he's ever been.
He got a virus before Christmas.
He was
and
approached
hasn't been able
to
to
fight.
shake
He
it.
was approached to have a fight in December. He got a virus and he hasn't been able to shake this sickness. And that could be a reason why we actually haven't seen Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall yet. And it's not all on Jon Jones' side. Jon Jones has been on Instagram. I think he's asked the UFC for at least 6 months to prepare for Tom Aspinall, so that's also a factor. But I think Dana has also said it's in the works. Jon Jones versus Aspinall is in the works. Tom Aspinall is set to take a fight beforehand, according to Chael Sonnen. He's going to be taking a fight against the Frenchman. Cyril Gane. So, look, it's not all, I would say Jon Jones' fault. But, again, Jon Jones also has the record for longest reigning heavyweight champion in the world.
Well, he's now surpassed, I think, over 1,000-something days as heavyweight champion with 2 title defenses. Actually, no, 1 title defense, 2 title heavyweight wins.
Do you think he took to Instagram and said, it's great to have this record? Do you think he takes that seriously?
Yeah, because when you go down in the record books, some people might not remember.
He's had one fight in 2 years, though.
But people might not remember or realise the amount of fights. They just look at the stat.
Nah,
and look
there's
at the
an
name.
asterisk on this. People know.
No.
He's been taken too long.
Well, let's say, who was the longest reigning heavyweight champion before that? You don't know how many title reigns were going into that in that amount of days.
Yeah.
History looks favourably upon whoever the record holder is. And if Jon Jones is that record holder, it'll look favourable.
I don't know.
upon
I
him.
like Jon Jones. I think he's the greatest of all time. But I'm saying, would you compare his legacy to a Volks and say, would you rather be an active champion or would you rather be the longest reigning Jon Jones champion?
Look, but Jon Jones has earned the right to kind of be an inactive champion.
I didn't ask that. I said, would you rather be an active, your legacy be, I was an active GOAT, or would you rather be the longest reigning
His
GOAT?
legacy as light heavyweight champion was extreme activity, beating the best in the division. But now, because of his age and because of injuries, he hasn't been active. So it's not like it's his fault. And he still goes down in his legacy as an active fighter, someone that did fight the best. So I'm not going to take a shit on him and say Volk's better.
Okay. I'm not saying Volk. I'm just saying, I don't know. I think people will remember this.
I'd rather be Jon Jones than Volk.
People will remember this as an asterisk on longest reigning. I don't think this record's holding a lot of weight when you fight one time in 2 years and still hold the belt. The UFC allow you to still be not undisputed, but heavyweight champion.
The problem was, and the biggest issue has always been, him versus Stipe over versus the interim title holder, because that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Historically, it doesn't make sense. And matchmaking-wise, it just doesn't make sense. Tom Aspinall should have already faced John Jones for the undisputed, and then the winner versus Stipe. That's how it should have worked.
He might be defending his interim title while we still have a current heavyweight champion. So that's the state of the heavyweight division right now.
Two-time interim title defense. That just sounds terrible.
Yeah, I mean, hey, best of luck to him. I can't wait to see it happen. I'm sure it's going to be a banger towards the end of the year. But speaking of something out of left field, Nick, that probably shouldn't be happening. Patrice Evra has said he's signed with the PFL. And he's going to be scheduled to fight this June.
I think it's in late May.
May 23rd.
May 23rd, PFL Paris. Patrice Evra, yes, that's right. The Patrice Evra, the former Manchester United player, will be having an MMA fight.
And it's not going to be against Luis Suarez.
No, it's not going to be against Luis Suarez, which would be fun and I think would sell better. But it's going to be against an actual MMA fighter in an MMA ring. And he's actually taken to Twitter, announced it. And Khabib, a big, soccer fan, a big football fan, has reached out to him and kind of provided him advice.
So Patrice Evra FaceTime Khabib. He said he wants him in his corner. He wants to, I don't know if it means he wants to go Dagestan 2-3 years before his fight, but he wants to be coached by the best in Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Khabib said, brother, send me a location. I'm there for you. Don't worry. You don't have to get in the octagon. Let me fight for you. But he says, if you need me, I'm there.
Well, that's the best part. Khabib was like, brother, you don't need this. Like, you are a successful football player. This is not for you. This lifestyle's not for you. But if you are going to do it, send me a location and I will help out. Which is hilarious. I think it's nice that he's got a mutual respect from one of the greatest of all time. And I think you should take him up on that offer, because if you are fighting, I think I would want some sort of Dagestani wrestling coaching in my back pocket.
He said, brother, I'm going to teach you how to smash people. And that's what you want to hear from Khabib, the best of all time. I mean, you do 2 months with Khabib in a training camp. You're better than probably...
You should be.
You should be better than some guys on the prelims, let's be honest.
I don't know who Patrice Evra is fighting yet. I don't know if that's been announced, but... The fact, I don't know, why would you want to do this for? Like, is it
maybe,
really...
Mate, people, you reach a certain age and you say, you know what, I've never been in a fight in my life and I've been taking dives on the soccer field. I want to prove my manhood. And that's what Patrice Evra wants to do.
If it was like a grudge match, if it was Patrice Evra versus Luis Suarez, that kind of makes sense. There's a bit of bad blood there, but who's he fighting?
It's also a marketing standpoint as well. The PFL say, hey, Patrice Evra, European superstar, let's get him in the octagon. It's like when the UFC went and got CM Punk from WWE and they got a whole fan base to come tune in. He may get smashed like CM Punk, but people are going to tune in.
Again, and then there's like that, what other sports stars are doing this? Because you see in rugby league...
That's true.
Rugby league that have boxers, or rugby league that become boxers. No one's really done this in MMA before, though.
Well, what other sporting star would absolutely kill it in MMA? I don't know that many that come to the top of my head. You got to think like big... heavyweight level athletes, I think, that could make a transition easy, because heavyweight is a division that probably doesn't have a lot of great competition like the other divisions, the skill set of the striking, the grappling, whereas heavyweight, you can just get in there like a Taito Ivasa and go on a bit of a run.
Well, if you're going to go heavyweights, I'm going LeBron James.
LeBron 100%.
And then any tight end, tight end, maybe defensive end in the NFL, linebackers, I'm talking like Myles Garrett, we've got the Bosa brothers, guys like them that are big athletic freaks, someone that knows how to kind of technically wrestle.
Aaron Donald, get him in there.
Aaron Donald in his prime, imagine him trying to get in the octagon. Someone that can bulldoze people, teach them a few mechanics of how the UFC and MMA works, and they would dominate.
Look, there's been some former NFL fighters that try their hand out in the octagon and they get knocked out. It is a different beast. But when you talk about the GOAT LeBron James having a step in the octagon, look, a guy of his stature, his size, his athleticism.
6'9", 300 pounds, probably on a good day.
And look, I don't know how his striking is, because all I've seen is him take flops on the court. You know, I'm sure you give him a 6-month training camp, he could beat a lot of guys in the UFC, especially in the heavyweight division.
Exactly, and that's where I think if you just look at the athletic potential that LeBron is, maybe not now, not if he came across to now, but say he started, doing wrestling or some sort of MMA
in his 20s,
in his early teens, maybe early 20s. By the time he reached 28, he would have been the greatest fighter of all time.
And that's a Sean Strickland. That's his argument. Sean Strickland's argument is, if the money was in MMA, you would see these ultra athletic guys, high level athletes get into MMA. But he goes, they would rather play basketball, play in the NFL, where the money is, and it's less taxing on the body. Of course, that's a smarter option.
You keep the brain cells. You kind of face less embarrassment if you do get knocked out or something like that.
So, Patrice Evra, CM Punks, maybe second guess. If you guys are really thinking about a late transition into MMA, you know who's doing that? Gable Stevenson right now. From NFL to college wrestling to now saying he wants to be a UFC heavyweight. Maybe second guess it, because it looks like it's harder than it is.
It's not fun. It doesn't look like it's very taxing. While the reward might be there, Could you imagine having to fight someone? I've never fought anybody. I don't wish to do it ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I think, Patrice, respect, but tread carefully.
Let's talk the boxing this weekend. We are here in New York City. We've got Fatal Fury in Times Square, headline by Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero. Nick, these guys have a bit of a backstory. Okay, Rolly Romero once leaked sparring footage of the two. This was early on in their career. He came out and said this was when Ryan Garcia was about 10K followers. He had about 3K followers. So he wasn't really clout chasing. But Ryan was talking a bit of shit, saying he was better than him. He released the whole sparring footage where it looked like Rolly Romero got the best of Ryan Garcia. Now they're finally at their point in their careers. They're multi-million level superstars, right? They're headlining this event by, sponsored by Turkey El Sheikh for the first time in Times Square. Nick, it's personal for both men, but who do you think wins this?
I think the way they've kind of set this card up, and I know this is kind of bad to say, but they've set it up for Devin Haney to beat his opponent, and they've set it up for Ryan Garcia to beat Rolly Romero. They want Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia rematch, and the way they do it is by giving them opponents that they can beat in Times Square, and then you set up a mega fight later in the year.
Well, that's right. They got Devin Haney up against Jose Ramirez. These guys, look, it's going to be an entertaining fight. Devin's got a point to prove because he got knocked out in his last outing against Ryan Garcia. He
didn't get knocked out. He got dominated.
Oh, sorry, he got dominated. He got knocked down 3 times. And, he got an O. It's not on his record, though. He said, he lost his undefeated record, but he's now kept his O. So he's still undefeated because he threatened to sue Ryan Garcia. I say he has a point to prove in that he's got his chin to test. 3 knockdowns. You're going up against a striker like Jose Ramirez.
You got to get some respect back.
He's got to get respect back in the boxing audience. And then Teofimo Lopez going up against Barbosa, which is, again, an entertaining fight. When all these guys were in like a round table, it was out in Times Square, the cold of Times Square, they were all getting under each other's skin. Particularly,
they all
dislike Devin Haney. Rolly Romero's come out and said that he wants to see Ryan Garcia get the best of Devin Haney again. He said, I hope you beat the shit out of Devin Haney again. Teofimo Lopez was saying, hey, you got a point to prove because the guy to his left, who was Ryan Garcia, beat the shit out of you. So I don't know why they're all coming so hard for Devin Haney. Is it because, he's gone after fighters and he's sued fighters, or is it because he comes from that arrogant standpoint where he thinks he's better than a lot of the boxers?
I mean, I can't tell why they dislike him. I mean, some people you just dislike. Some people are just the heels. Some people are just the bad guys, and Devin Haney is just the bad guy. You want to root against him, and guys like Garcia, as much as they kind of parade around, they're funny. They're entertaining, and people kind of get around them. The same with Teofimo Lopez. The guy's funny. So when they're making, jabs or comments, you're kind of going to lean towards a guy that's a bit more fun.
Well, this isn't the Ryan Garcia we saw, the crazy meltdown Ryan Garcia who was drinking at the weigh-ins, missing weight, dancing, posting every 10 minutes on Twitter. This is a locked-in, guy that's been in training camp for the last 10 weeks, zoned in, wanting to prove a point to Rolly Romero and prove a point to Devin Haney. But do you miss the old Ryan Garcia?
I definitely do.
That old Ryan Garcia was very entertaining.
Top 3 probably most entertaining personalities and fighters of all time. Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney in 2024.
Think he faked a mental episode for fight promotion, then went on to prove everyone wrong and beat Devin Haney, who was going in to say he's an actual professional. And then you got outclassed by an actual showman.
But the way he kind of built up that fight, I thought he was crazy. I thought, look, he's drinking alcohol. He doesn't look like he's in shape. He's missed weight. There's no chance he's winning this fight. Devin Haney looked like he was zoned in, looked like he had one of the best preparations of his life. And then Ryan Garcia goes in there and absolutely kills him. And I was like, okay.
Massive underdog.
It was a massive swerve. Ryan Garcia, you got me. You're obviously not crazy, but I do miss it. I wish he was crazy.
Yeah,
and look, the entertainment
he's
aspect.
still been entertaining. They've been going back and forth at press conferences, and they've been going back and forth in the media, him and Haney, him and Rolly Romero. But like you said, this fight between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia is already set in stone. They know that's the next one to make. I think it's going to happen, win or lose here. But this is our prediction for Fatal Fury in Times Square this Friday night here in Times Square in New York. It's going to be Saturday in Australia. Make sure you're tuning in. But my predictions are, it goes the way Tokyo Sheikh wants it to go. It's going to be Teofimo Lopez winning, Devin Haney getting the win, and Ryan Garcia getting the win. And they're setting up for their fight, which is going to be probably sometime in September.
I hate to back the exact same things, but that's just the way it's going to go. This is the way they've set it up. They've picked these opponents for these guys to get the easy wins. Maybe not easy, but at least get the win. They need these guys to win to set up future fights. And Devin Haney versus Garcia, there's enough bad blood there where even if they do lose, they're going to set up the fight anyways. But I do think they're going to win.
Okay, and then this sets up the rematch. Talking long shot right now. Does Ryan Garcia beat Devin Haney again? If we're talking a healthy, zoned-in Ryan Garcia, how could he not win again? If he was smoking weed, if he was drinking alcohol,
not training properly,
just taking the piss the whole fight against Devin Haney. Imagine a guy that wants to prove a point and zone in against a Devin Haney. He has to go into that fight as favourite.
Just for how well he outclassed him, you just got to say, look, if someone's that much better than you, that should always be the case. So I would back Garcia again.
Yeah, I think he actually knocks out Rolando Romero in this fight as well.
I hope so.
I think it's a very sharp left hook. If Isaac Cruz was making him search for Easter eggs, like he said, he didn't knock him out, but I mean, he pretty much got the job done. I think it's a Ryan Garcia TKO knockout.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's probably what I'll gamble on if I get the chance. It's hard to do that out here in America, but I'll definitely put some, small wager on it.
Okay, that's all we have time for here in New York. Make sure you subscribe to @KRuzBros on YouTube, and all our clips will be on @Jon-Bernard K on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you subscribe and follow it on all socials. Thanks for staying tuned. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.